Hey you all, Carpetbagger here, coming to you live from the great state of Oklahoma, more specifically Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. And even more specifically than that, I'm in front of the Museum of Osteology. Now you may ask yourself, what is an osteology? That is the study of skeletons. This is the Skeleton Museum, and it advertises itself as the world's only skeleton museum. There was formerly a satellite museum in Orlando that was owned by this museum. Apparently that has gone out of business, so this is once again the only full skeleton museum in existence. So are you ready to go inside and see some of these super spooky skeletons? Please follow me. They actually have beetles that clean their skeletons. You can see some beetles at work right there, gnawing on these skulls. It says it's a raccoon right there, a possum there, and a bobcat. See those little beetles at work cleaning away all the skin and flesh and meat, making a nice clean little skull. Right off the bat, I have some bird skeletons. This is a harpy eagle, and this here is called a secretary bird. I don't know if it like answers phone calls for you or whatnot. Actually, it looks like it's grabbing a little snake down there. This case is currently empty, but please bear with us for articulating a new exhibit. I think bear jokes are my favorite. I think they're even better than bee jokes. Now this is an interesting subscription service, Bone Box. I guess they send you a box of bones once a month. Yeah, that's pretty amazing. There's a skull signed by Jane Goodall. And there's a terrifying baboon. Here's a skeleton suffering from kyphosis, the curvature of the spine. You can see very, very bad posture occurring right there. The skeleton has to use a cane to get around. Yes, the first and most important question, what is a skeleton? Skeleton is an animal's internal support frame. There we have a people skeleton. And what's this? Oh, it's a dog skeleton. Comes from a husky. Look at that. Even little frogs have skeletons. Technically, these are all skeletons too. These are exoskeletons. Animals that like to keep their skeletons on the outside. Me personally, I like leaving my skeleton on the inside. Actually, see this? It's a turtle skeleton. They have it cut open so you can see. Most of the middle there does not have skeletons or bones in it. The spine is there connected on top of the shell. So that's why you don't try to take a turtle out of a shell, because the bones are built right in. There's a human male pelvis and a human female pelvis. See the female's bigger to accommodate babies being dropped through her pelvis. Down here we have man's greatest enemy, the chimpanzee, with his immense strength and face-ripping potential. Here we have some skeleton art. There are different bones that have been carved. That is an orangutan skull that has been decoratively carved. Here's an ornamental human skull from Tibet, China, and a human femur horn, a musical instrument made of human bones. Here's your standard human skeleton right here. And there we have a skeleton of a dwarf. You can see how different the different bones are, how the different sizes each bone is. This skull has a disease called ankylosing spontaneolitis, if I'm saying that right, where the jawbone actually fused and prevented this person from opening their mouth. There's a skull with a gunshot wound. You can see that stick there. Shows the trajectory of the bullet as it bursts out this person's head. This is the skull of J. Vilmaret. He's actually the founder of the museum. And it says here that he's actually still alive, but he had his skull scanned and 3D printed. Very cool. I'd love to get a scan of my skull printed out. You can see the different ages of skulls there as they grow into a grown person's skull. These are actually different skulls from people of different races. That's an Asian skull, an Aborigines skull, a European skull, and an African skull. I don't know, they look very similar to me. There's the foot of someone who had their foot bound. On ancient Chinese tradition, they crush a human foot into a very small shoe. The damage it does, and there's a normal foot underneath. There's a skull used in head binding. They wrap their head to actually create an elongated skull. A lot of people believe these are actually alien skulls, but I won't weigh in on that debate. You can see that is the skull of an older person who is lacking some teeth. These skulls have had trepidation done on them, which is actually where pieces of bone are removed to relieve pressure on the brain. Now, there's still some usage of that when people are suffering from brain swelling, but back in ancient times, they did some surgeries that are questionable by today's standards. There's another skeleton suffering from kyphosis. There's an exploded skull, kind of shows the bones pulled out so they can be seen more clearly. I hope my skull never explodes. We can see here some medical prosthetics actually used on bones. Spinal fusion instrument where a metal rod was added to someone's spine. And we see artificial knee replacement. There's an artificial hip right there. Here we have a human skeleton known as the yoga skeleton. See, it's practicing some yoga moves. This penguin here, he has his bones stored away inside of his skin. And there's a more skeletal penguin right there. I find dolphin skeletons to be very interesting looking. Get this monkey skeleton right here. Looks like he's trying to steal that antelope skeleton. Check out this box of monkey skeletons. This is really fascinating, all these different skeletons. That's a capuchin skeleton. There's the skeleton of a macaque monkey. It's a teeny little Philippine tarsier. Just notice there's a human skull hiding in the base of that tree. But anyways, this is a crab-eating monkey, but he's not eating a crab. He's sniffing a flower. People have asked me why I'm so terrified of baboons, and I think these skeletons right here kind of speak for themselves. Look at those teeth. Look at that. It is a monkey, so it is fast, it is agile, and it has those teeth. Here we see some comparisons between apes and humans. These are orangutan skulls. These are human skulls. And there's the dreaded chimpanzee. That's a gorilla in the back. You see the gorillas. They have a really large head, but looks like they have kind of a very small brain cavity. And there's old Homo sapien right there. There's some fossilized hominid bones in here. And here's Lucy. Some had referred to her as the missing link between man and apes. And it's interesting here, they've filled in the non-bone parts with some mechanical substitutions, almost like a robotic Lucy. Here are my people, the Neanderthals. See, they've mixed in some taxidermy there. There's a ferret murdering a prairie dog. And there's the skeleton version of that fight. Battle between the skeleton ferret and the skeleton prairie dog. Here are cat skeletons. Here, all from our little domesticated cat right there, up to the big, massive African lion. See our dog skeletons in here. We got coyote, a red wolf. This is a gray wolf. That is a Great Dane. See, Cuddles there is about ready to eat that giant bone. It really is fascinating when you think about how different types of dogs look. So that is a Great Dane, and that is a Chihuahua. You know, they're the exact same animal. That's crazy. Of course, all the selective breeding that humans have done to dogs. You can see all these different skulls are the same animal. See the bull terrier there? How smooth the top of that skull looks. With a big St. Bernard skull. There's a Shetland Collie skull. A pug, a little tiny pug skull. And then the near microscopic Pomeranian skull. There's a boxer there. And then one of the weirdest dog skulls, the English Bulldog. There's a seal skeleton there. I do notice that every exhibit has these signs that say, yes, they're real. They're really trying to drive that point home that these are real bones. Oh, look at the walrus skull there. And there's a walrus baculum. You know, if you don't know what a baculum is, you can look that up on your own free time. Here's a whole display case full of different cat skulls. And each of these cat skulls has some sort of malady or deformation. There's a cat with a tumor. There's a hydrocephalic cat skull. There's a cat with a severe sinus infection. Cat with a severe jaw infection. Oh, look at that. That upper jaw infection actually led to abscess in the skull. It's a grizzly bear skeleton here. It says, please do not touch me. Also, that applies to living grizzly bears. Please do not touch them. Interesting thing about elephant skeletons, they have that hole there. That's where their trunk goes. It actually created the myth of the mythical Cyclops when they discovered this skull and thought that was the eye hole. Hippopotamus. Big old giraffe skeleton. Interesting fact, giraffes have the same number of bones in their neck as a human. They're just way bigger. Here's a special skull. This skull actually belonged to a space chimp. So this skull has been in space inside of a chimp. There's the Oklahoma section. Various bits of Oklahoma skeletal wildlife. Fish bones are pretty interesting, especially this flying fish skeleton. Very interesting looking. It says there are more skeletons upstairs. Just normally they have a section where kids can play with bones, but looks like it's currently closed because of current situations. I find snake skeletons particularly unsettling. Look at this anaconda. Like, how many rib bones can one animal possibly have? Look at this king cobra skeleton. It's crocodiles. That's a Chinese alligator. The only species of alligator besides the American alligator. See the difference here between the crocodiles And then the alligator there. That's our homeboy. That's the American alligator. This alligator snapping turtle there. Man, look at his head. So big. So vicious. We have a kangaroo skeleton. And this here is a koala. This is the Virginia possum right here. See, it's got his tail wrapped around the branch there. There's a vampire bat skeleton. And they show right here how they suck blood of that cow's foot. It's my understanding they don't actually suck blood. They bite a hole and then lick up the blood that drips out. So pangolin. There's one of nature's strangest animals, the platypus. There's the skeleton form. Those are actually platypus eggs there. They are insanely tiny. These are hedgehog skeletons, made famous by the Sega video game Sonic the Hedgehog. And then here's Sonic's friend, the echidna. Remember they had Knuckles, was Sonic's friend who was an echidna. Different rodents. See the little squirrel up there. There's some sloths. Love sloths, such sweet, gentle animals. Over here we can see an armadillo, and that actually shows you how an armadillo can actually roll up into a little ball. Pretty cool. Now that there is a pink fairy armadillo, supposedly the smallest armadillo. That really is insanely tiny. Elephant skull there. That one with the teeth there, that is an orca skull. There's some other types of whales and dolphins in here. Some birds. Got a flamingo there. Some hornbills. Some macaw. This is a massive skull. Let's see the macaw there. Have it eating an acorn. Shows the anatomy of a bird there. You can see the muscles, feathers, bones. Flightless birds here. You have the penguins down there at the bottom, then the ostrich and ostrich-like birds up there at the top. Your sheep and goats, you can see how their antlers, horns, different from their bones. I don't know, what do you guys think? I always thought that giraffe skulls kind of looked like the devil's skull. Pig skulls here. Check out that. The horns on that one. Or I guess those are actually teeth. Those would be tusks. Okay, tusks being the appropriate word. There's a rhino foot ashtray, which is not the best use for a rhino foot. Best use for a rhino foot, I guess, would be helping a rhino walk. And then finally, we have horse skeletons. And now we exit through the gift shop. You can actually buy your own bones here in the gift shop. Got a little American possum skull there. So that was the Museum of Osteology. For all those of us who always wonder, what do animals look like without all that skin and muscle? But anyway, it's a very cool museum, very educational, some very cool exhibits. They pretty much have the bones of every animal. You'd make some sort of skeleton-based Noah's Ark, you could stock it right here. If you'd like to see other places I've been, please check the interactive map in the description of this video. If you would like to help support the channel, consider donating to Patreon. $3 or more will get you a postcard once a month. Also now selling enamel pins in the Etsy shop. All that information is in the description of this video. Until next time, this one's in the bag.